Tonight, step outside and look up. If you live near a city, you'll see maybe a dozen stars, a few bright ones, a planet if you're lucky, and a hazy orange glow that stretches across the horizon like a permanent sunrise that never comes. For 99.9% of human history, that sky didn't exist. What existed instead was something so overwhelming, so viscerally vast, that modern humans have almost no frame of reference for it. On a clear night, away from any artificial light, the human eye can see roughly 5,000 stars with no equipment whatsoever. The Milky Way appears not as a faint smudge, but as a river of light so bright it casts shadows on the ground. Ancient writers described being able to read by it. Sailors used it to navigate, farmers used it to plant, priests used it to govern entire civilizations. The sky was the first library, the first calendar, the first map, and we have almost completely forgotten how to read it. Let's start with what the sky actually was to pre-industrial people, because it wasn't decoration, it was infrastructure. Before clocks, the sky told you the time, not just roughly, precisely. The position of certain stars on the horizon told experienced observers the hour to within minutes. The Egyptians divided the night into 12 segments using a system of 36 star clusters called decans, each one rising on the horizon exactly 40 minutes after the last. Egyptian priests used these rising stars to regulate temple rituals, royal schedules, and the timing of agricultural work with an accuracy that stunned modern archaeoastronomers when they first decoded the system in the 20th century. Before calendars, the sky told you the date, the heliacal rising of Sirius, the moment each year when Sirius first becomes visible on the eastern horizon just before dawn, happened in ancient Egypt within days of the annual Nile flood. Every year, reliably, for thousands of years. The Egyptians didn't just observe this, they built their entire civic and religious calendar around it. Their new year began with Sirius, their farming season was timed to it. The star wasn't a symbol of the flood, it was a predictive instrument for it. An alarm clock set 4,000 years in advance, written in light across the sky. And it wasn't just Egypt. Indigenous Australians developed one of the most sophisticated astronomical traditions on Earth, one that modern researchers are only beginning to fully document. They identified not just star patterns but dark constellations, shapes defined by the dark dust clouds of the Milky Way rather than by stars. The Emu in the Sky, a constellation made of darkness rather than light, stretches across the Milky Way and rises in a specific orientation in autumn, exactly when real emus are laying their eggs. For thousands of years, this celestial emu told people precisely when to find eggs. It was a calendar, a food guide, and a navigational tool built into the sky itself. In Polynesia, navigators crossed thousands of miles of open ocean without instruments of any kind, using a system so sophisticated it took Western researchers decades to even understand it. They memorized the rising and setting positions of hundreds of individual stars. They used the direction of ocean swells, the flight patterns of birds, the color of the water. But the stars were the foundation. Polynesian navigators could feel the motion of the boat beneath them and look at the sky above them and know, with extraordinary precision, exactly where they were on the surface of the Earth. No compass, no GPS, no charts, just the sky, internalized over a lifetime of learning that began in childhood. The navigator's knowledge was so complex, so layered, and so difficult to transmit that it nearly died entirely during the 20th century. By the 1970s, there were only a handful of people alive who still possessed the full system. A revival movement, led by navigator Mau Piai Lug and the Polynesian Voyaging Society, worked urgently to document and transmit what remained. In 1976, a traditional Hawaiian voyaging canoe called Hokulea sailed from Hawaii to Tahiti using only traditional navigation. It was the first such voyage in centuries. When it arrived, thousands of Tahitians gathered on the shore to meet it. Many were weeping. They knew what had almost been lost. But here's what's remarkable. The capacity to read the sky didn't require special intelligence. It didn't require genius. It required attention and time and a world in which the sky was actually visible. In 1994, an earthquake knocked out power across Los Angeles. In the darkness that followed, emergency services were flooded with calls from people reporting a strange, enormous cloud overhead, a glowing silver structure that stretched across the entire sky. The callers were frightened. They didn't know what it was. It was the Milky Way. They had lived their entire lives beneath it without ever seeing it. That story tells you everything. We haven't lost the sky because we became less intelligent. We haven't lost it because we stopped caring. We lost it because we lit up the ground so brightly that the sky disappeared. Light pollution now affects more than 80% of the world's population. 1/3 of humanity cannot see the Milky Way from where they live. In the United States, that number is 99%. The International Dark Sky Association estimates that a child born in a city today has a statistically near zero chance of ever seeing the sky their great-grandparents considered ordinary without making a deliberate effort to travel to one of the shrinking patches of darkness that remain. And something is lost in that. Not just beauty, not just the romantic experience of a starry night. Something functional, something that was woven into how humans understood time, direction, season, and their own place in the universe. For most of human history, every person alive knew that they were on a rock, spinning through an incomprehensibly vast cosmos, surrounded by suns too numerous to count. They knew this not from science class, not from a documentary, but from looking up every single night and seeing the evidence with their own eyes. The scale of the universe was not abstract. It was visible. It was personal. It was the last thing you saw before you closed your eyes. There's evidence that this mattered psychologically. Researchers studying awe, the specific emotion triggered by encountering something vast and beyond comprehension, have found that it consistently reduces self-focused thinking, increases feelings of connection to others, and makes people more willing to cooperate and act for the long term. Awe, it turns out, makes you a better person. And for 300,000 years, humans experienced it every single cloudless night, automatically for free, just by being alive after dark. Now we have to drive 4 hours into the desert to feel it occasionally, if we remember to try. There are places in the world where the old sky still exists. The Atacama Desert in Chile, the Namib in Namibia, parts of rural Mongolia, the Scottish Highlands, the outback of Western Australia. People travel thousands of miles to stand in these places and look up. They describe the experience as overwhelming, transformative. Some cry, though they can't fully explain why. Maybe they're just seeing something their nervous system was designed to see every night, finally, for the first time. Your ancestors didn't travel to see the universe came to them. Every night, without fail, it spread itself across the sky above their heads and reminded them, quietly, consistently, for their entire lives, how large everything was and how small and temporary and precious. We turned on the lights, and the universe went away, and most of us never even noticed it was gone.